Hey everybody, how you doing? Doug is still not here. Hold on. Hold on a sec, guys. Doug is having issues because he can't figure out. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Um, yeah, you do. You do have a lot of catching up to do. Southwest Ohio, like what, Cincinnati area? I'm guessing. Um, yeah, PV, you do have a lot of catching up to do. I've been busy. And I'm sure other people have been busy too. A lot going on. There is no shortage of things happening in the world. That is for sure. Did any of you guys catch the conversation that we had yesterday with Scott? So Doug is here now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had an unexpected meeting that popped up on me. A local radio station who's been recruiting me. We're starting to have some conversations. Just to say that.
Okay, so we're not gonna do a story today because we kind of did. We kind of did a story yesterday. We spent about an hour and a half on it. So, we're just gonna focus strictly on the Constitution today.
All right, very good.
So hi, we're live. We're already live.
Yeah, I saw that. Hi, everybody. Matter of fact, I'm what I'm doing right now on my other computer is I'm pulling up the chat room. My neighbor just decided to start playing the drums. So if you hear it, I apologize. Last time I complained about him playing drums, I was trying to do something. He called the cops and told them I was throwing rocks at his house. And the cops told me, don't throw rocks at his house. You do it again, we'll be back. I'm not throwing rocks at his house. He's playing drums. I swear, I hate my neighbors and everybody around me, but I love my fellow citizens and patriots. You guys are my escape, man. But anyway, so if you hear the drums, I apologize. Good to see you. Glad to be here. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull up because I want to be able to see the chat room, and I can't see it as a on this screen. I have to actually pull up the Dealio, and so I'm doing that real quick. As I do this, one of the things I want to tell you guys is I'm on the radio on KMET 1490 AM on Saturdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific, and I'm on KPRACE, KPRZ Saturday nights at classes at 9 p.m. There's another station called The Answer, KCBQ down in San Diego. And so I'm working with them possibly getting on there. So that's kind of what delayed me. And I've got another meeting like 5 o'clock after this. So the moment we're done, I'm going to hop off to do that. So I apologize if I run off quickly at the end. But all kinds of great stuff going on. And so, well.
And I'm doing, I'm going to be finishing up the communism by the back door. When we're done here, I'm going to set the I'm gonna set it up, and then I'm just gonna jump right into it. So there'll probably be about a 5 to 10 minute delay. But I can't set up a live stream. I can only set up one live stream at a time. So once this live stream is done, then I'll set up the communism by the back door and finish it up, because I want to get through that. And then tomorrow, I'm probably going to play something that is a lot more upbeat and hopeful, because I've been focusing on communism and all kinds of stuff that's really dark history. So I thought, you know what, I would be wise to intertwine some happy and hopeful stuff in there, so that it's not so dark.
Happy and hopeful. Well, I tell people, well, I don't know about happy, but hopeful, yeah. Well, I tell people all the time that I like to end on optimistic notes. I do believe it is doable to get things turned around. And as a Christian, my attitude has been we're on the verge of a great awakening, or Christ is returning. Either way, I'm excited. So
JFK said it best: our problems are man-made and they can be solved by man.
Okay. And one of the other, John F. Kennedy, is that which Kennedy you're talking about?
JFK. He said our problems are man-made and we can't, so therefore they can be solved by man.
My favorite quote by JFK is he had a bunch of brainiac, high-minded people to sit down in the dining room there at the White House to have a meeting so that they could work together to, do whatever needs to be done. And he says to the men in the room, "This is the greatest collection of intelligence ever to sit in this room, except when Thomas Jefferson ate alone or dined alone." And I'm like, that's such a great comment. So there you go. All right. So Article 1, Section 8 is where we left off. If I remember properly, we went through just the beginning, or we started touching on it with taxes and all that. And then we left off with the to borrow money part. But we talked about taxation, if I remember properly. So that's what we're going to pick up. So for those of you following along, either on the screen or with your own Constitution book, or pamphlet, the first paragraph where it begins, Congress shall have the power to, that's what we went over last week. So the next one down says to borrow money. Now, real quick, one of the things that we need to recognize, understand, and by the way, hey, chat room, I am looking at you. A few people saying hello to me as I walked in. Florida Jack and let's see, it was someone else. Oh, Katie did it. Welcome, Doug. Nini D. Hello, Doug. Hello. And a lot of folks, Winters. Hello, Doug. Good to see you. And all the rest of you. And yeah, I tell you what, yesterday went well. I'm going to be sending out the link to my peeps. We came up, I wasn't thinking about, didn't send the link ahead of time. So I'll be sending the links to my peeps later on. So hopefully,
I thought it was a very good conversation.
I think it was a very good conversation. We strayed away from the original topic a little bit at one point, but we got back on topic. But that's what happens. We get a bunch of patriots together with a million things on their mind. But I think overall it was definitely a good conversation. Scott and I both bring good things to the table, but they're different things to the table, and that's what I liked about it. All right, so Article 1, Section 8, what you'll notice there, the very first paragraph, it begins, Congress shall have power to. You'll notice that each clause after that begins with the word to. The words, the Congress shall have power, comes before each of those twos. They just didn't want to write it down over and over and over again. So when it says to, what comes before that is the Congress shall have power. And sometimes you'll see me read that. I'm not adding words. I'm simply just putting in for context what is essentially already there. Now, power shall have power to lay and collect taxes. We talked about that last week. So the next one says that Congress shall have power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Yes, a national debt is constitutional. Now, for those of you who believe that all wars are banker wars, and I'm not necessarily in disagreement with you, I think you're on the right track with that. I am going to say what Jefferson said about it. Please don't laugh. He was looking at it from a different point of view. Jefferson said that the only time a country should go into debt is in time of war, because war is an unexpected expense. That last part, unexpected expense, typically is laughed at, because most of us believe that they plan these wars out, and all the wars are, or there's a lot of profit to be made in war. But nonetheless, from Jefferson's point of view, the only time it should be necessary to go into debt is a time of war. Otherwise, a country should live within its means. A future generation, and there's a quote that says something along this, should not be required to pay back the debt of the previous generation. We should not saddle our children and our grandchildren with debt. That said, we have always had national debt except for one time. In January of 1835, Andrew Jackson, selling a whole bunch of land, federal-owned land, that was actually, I believe, obtained unconstitutionally in the first place, but so be it, sold that property, used that money to pay down the debt or pay it off. He ran on, as for president of the United States, on the platform that he would A, pay off the debt, and B, end the Second Bank of the United States. He fulfilled both promises. The interesting thing about the debt, though, is the debt in January of 1835, when it was completely paid off, which means it also paid off the Revolutionary War debt if there was any left, any remaining. We remained debt-free for about a month. February of 1835, the debt began to rise again. So debt is a part of the history of the United States. We have had debt, and the Founding Fathers knew that debt would be necessary. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that it has been a necessary part of functioning as a country, and it is constitutionally allowed. However, when you manage debt in an irresponsible manner, it could be a problem, especially when you start talking trillions or more. And that's where we're at now. So the Congress has the authority to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Now, if they're going to if Congress borrows money, do they just say, hey, we're going to borrow some money here, give us the application, we'll fill it out? It doesn't work that way. It has to go through the legislative process. All of these things have to have legislation attached to it. So they don't just borrow money. It has a legislative process attached to it where one house proposes, the other house approves, the president signs, or it gets overridden if he vetoes it by Congress in order to become a law. A legislative process must be in place. You don't just borrow money. The borrowing of money has a legislative process, and in that legislative process, how that money is to be earmarked is included in that legislation. And we'll get to that part of it later on in a different article, in a different clause. Now, so it is constitutional for the Congress to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Once again, they begin the process. It's a legislative process. They propose it. Both houses approve it. Goes to the president for signature, and then it happens. The next one. This is one of the one that I like to.
What about the debt ceiling?
I'm sorry?
What about the debt ceiling?
Debt ceiling is an illusion. This is something they created to make it look like there's a ceiling. There really isn't. And let me ask you this. You may have heard me talk about this, Ron, but I'm going to ask you and the audience. I'm curious your answer, then I'll tell you my answer. So what do you think the Founding Fathers would have thought of a government shutdown?
I don't think the Founding Fathers ever considered the fact or ever considered the notion that the government would be the size that it is today.
That's true.
Now,
regardless of the size of government, what would they think of a government shutdown?
I think they would probably celebrate the hell out of it. So that's
what I tell people when we talk about Article 1, Section 7 is that the House of Representatives has the power of the purse strings. They have the ability, and remember, the House is the voice of the people. So that means the people have the power of the purse strings. And if the people want to stop something from going on, what do? You defund it. If it is defunded and the federal government screams, oh, well, we can't operate, then we're shutting down because you defunded that. My response is government shutdown. That was the point.
Exactly.
Darn tootin', they would celebrate it. You're operating in a manner we don't like. we're not going to give you the money. Shuts everything down.
No,
Fine.
and
You're not
see,
supposed to have a bunch of authorities anyway.
This goes back to what you and I. Goes back to the conversation that we had yesterday. That the mentality of Americans is that the federal government is supreme to the states. It is
Well, it's
not
just
that way.
but nothing happens unless they do it.
But well,
right? Remember Obama? You didn't build that.
Yes, I get that, but I also say that the notion of with the creation of the Federal Reserve, it reversed the flow of money. By reversing the flow of money, and the money is now going, instead of the states giving the money to Washington to fund Washington, which is one of the primary reasons for the cause of the War of Northern Aggression, it is now the Federal Reserve and federal money, and it has completely reversed the flow of money from Washington out to the states. And the states are now beholden to the federal government. And that's another reason why we believe that the federal government is the supreme authority.
That's a part of it. Absolutely. And one of the pieces of evidence to support your argument is the veto of the bonus bill in 1817. And I think you've heard me talk about this. What was going on, folks, is that Congress proposed a bill to fund, you ready for this? The highways, roadways, boatways, and canals. The federal funding should pay for that. And Madison, the father of the Constitution, probably knows a thing or two about the Constitution, vetoed it on the grounds that it was not constitutional. It was not an authorized power for them to put money into the states for the roads. It's up to the states to take care of the roads. It's up to the states to build highways. It's up to the states to build a canal. If that canal is going to cross state lines, or to work together. If it creates a dispute, then the federal government come in to mediate that dispute. Otherwise, it's up to the states to do it and work together doing it.
Well, and let me address something that Jackie just said, Florida Jack. She said that they have to be transparent on what they're spending the money on. Well, I agree with that, but that's not really the point. The point is that the federal government is not supposed to be spending the money that it's spending.
Right. Not
all the programs that exist exist essentially to perpetuate the size of the federal government, and that is not the way that the form of government was created, which is expressly what we discussed yesterday. Our system of government has been so bastardized and turned upside down and flipped that we don't know which way is up, and everybody has this belief of federal supremacy.
And I was asked today in one of my classes, why is it that the deep state, the bureaucracy, and the staffers, why are they so overwhelmingly leftist? And it's really easy. You work for the government. Your paycheck comes to the government. You're going to support what encourages your paycheck to get bigger and you to have more responsibility or power. Even if you don't think it's the right thing.
And to piggyback upon what you just said, you also have people who are on the dole, who are also voting to maintain their, which is basically what we also talked about in terms of the war on poverty. The war on poverty, that was LBJ's Great Society. Now what you've done is you have created a whole segment of society that are dependent upon the governments for subsidy. And when you have people who are dependent upon the governments for just to sustain their life, they're going to continue to vote to keep their sustenance coming in.
One of the other ways they keep control and they perpetuate that idea of being supreme over the states is the Commerce Clause, which is next.
Okay.
It says the Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. That part it says, and among the several states, that has been quote unquote interpreted. For those of you who know me really well, you know what I think of the word interpreted, and we'll get to it in a minute. Has been interpreted to mean that the federal government has the ability to regulate anything that crosses state lines for any reason. And when they say regulate, they mean to restrict it, control it, or perpetuate it, depending on what they want to do, through federal legislation, the federal courts, and to tax it. So that's the Commerce Clause. Now, that's what we've been taught. That's what we believe. Everybody believes it. The Commerce Clause and the General Welfare Clause are the two most often used clauses. The Commerce Clause got to that point through a number of rulings by John Marshall, but the one that really kicked it over the edge, I want to say 1942, I may be off on that. Wilburn, Wickard v. Filburn. Go ahead.
While you're thinking about that, I want to address something that Ninny just said. She just said that my thought is that all the state governments are in on the destruction, or they wouldn't let the people think that the federal government is in charge. And my my opinion on that is that I think that we are 100 years removed from the formation of the Federal Reserve, and the people who are in government now don't know the Constitution well enough to understand how they can reverse it.
Well, not only that, but the state governments were trusted before the Federal Reserve, before the 17th Amendment, before the 16th Amendment, because we had more control over them. And also they were designed in such a manner that the state senates were primarily representatives from the rural areas. The cities didn't have control of both houses. Right. With the 17th Amendment, it gave the cities more control over the state Senate because it's now democratically voted in. So also the state legislatures were a different animal at that time. Trying to put today's state legislatures into the box that we're describing on way the states are supposed to control things does sound confusing sometimes, because they're dirtbags too, for the most part. Mm-hmm. You're right, Ninny. You're correct. State governments are in on the destruction. They either don't know that they're supposed to have the power, or they don't want it anyway, because consolidation of power is the way to rule.
That's right.
And if some of that power is spread out to the states, it's not as effective for tyranny.
They don't understand. They don't understand their power.
Well, they don't. So I think in most cases that's the case too. But even if they did, they are of the quality or lack thereof that they're a part of the problem anyway. Because the way they at least half of them, or at least the Senate half or portion, enters office is through a method that's not a part of the republic. It's democratic. And so what it does, it gives the cities a bigger voice. So that's where the rhinos come from. Mm-hmm. Rhinos are Republicans that are influenced by city thinking, population center thinking. We just have to have the common good in mind, and that's all that matters. And in order to do that, we have to consolidate all power so the government can just, be the handmaiden of the people from cradle to grave.
Would you say that rhinos are? See, I think a rhino is a good term. However, I actually think that the better term, a more accurate term is for rhinos is neoconservatives. And neoconservatives are essentially socialists. They're a socialist hybrid.
Well, it's funny because the Democrat-minded Republicans are neocons. And then I call the Democrats that are really on the edge of the left neocoms, the new communists, the neo-communists. And I think you're onto something. I like the term rhino because basically the Republican Party's platform, until they started screwing with it the last couple of years, has always been a good platform. They don't follow it. Why do they not follow it? Because there's a battle of factions within that party. And the factions that are influenced by the left, by big city thinking, things like that, they're the problem. The ones that tend to, not always, there's exceptions, but tend to come from the more rural areas, tend to be the more conservative. And the only reason I use the word conservatives, because that's the term everybody uses. Really, I prefer the term restorative, because we can't conserve the Constitution anymore. Now I need to restore it. We're pretty much in a post-constitutional era, almost across the board. But that all said, getting back to the point here, they have fallen for the lie too. Like you said, they don't understand. You get back to the word regulate with the Commerce Clause. we on both sides, or all sides, or everybody up and down, as our good friend Warhamster would say, believe, we've been convinced all our lives that the Commerce Clause means if something crosses state lines, the federal government automatically has authority. Now, I'm going to tell you that's not quite the case. And you could do this at home. If you want to try to do this on the screen, you could do this. So modern dictionaries, go to dictionary.com even. Probably do this for you.
Do you want me to go to the 1828?
Not yet. Let's go to the modern dictionary first. So modern dictionaries, the way all dictionaries are designed is typically the definition that's closest to the top is the most commonly used. The most commonly used in language. So if you've got a word that has, let's say, 7 definitions, the very first one, number 1, is going to be the most commonly used. The 7th one is still a definition, but it's going to be the least used. So if you look at today's dictionary and you look up the word regulate or regulated, either way, while he does that, then what you'll find is that the definitions are a little different, just slightly different. All right, so let's take a look at this now on the screen.
To govern or direct according
number 1,
to rule.
To govern or direct according to rule. In other words, your regulatory agencies to control, to restrict, because of what the rule, the law says. Then it says to bring under control of law or constituted authority. To control based on what the controller, the controlling authority is. And then to make regulations concerning that. The second one, to bring order. Or another way of saying it is to put in good order, method, or uniformity to. Number 3, it says to fix or adjust the time, amount, degree, or rate of. That'd be weights, measures, flows. You turn on and off the hose to regulate the flow. You regulate the pressure of a tire by putting air in or taking it out. You regulate the sweetness of your tea by putting sugar in your tea. All right, now the 1828 dictionary, look up, is that the 1828 dictionary?
Yeah.
All right, so now, the first one is to adjust by rule, method, or established mode as to regulate weights and measures, to regulate the size to bread, to regulate the moral conduct by laws of God, to regulate your manners. So this is about adjusting. Notice the first one, though, in today's dictionary is number 3.
Right.
To subject to rules or restrictions. To put in good order is number 2 as it was before. So notice that number 2 remained the same place, but its position based on to rule by law is in a different place. Because the rule by law is number 3 now instead of number 1. Right. All right. Now, here's why I want you to see that. So you see that the word regulate or regulated has slightly changed over the years, and the emphasis on government using the word regulate to enforce through rule and control and law is more prominent now than it was then. Here's why. Because the founding fathers, while they recognize that as being as a definition, the definition they were using was to put in good order. Now, how do we know that to be true? Well, let's get a second opinion. Let's go to the Second Amendment. One of the word regulate or regulated shows up 3 times in the Constitution. Twice in Article 1, Section 8, once in the Commerce Clause, once when it comes to money, to regulate the value thereof, and then the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia. So is a well-regulated militia one that's controlled by rule of law by an overbearing government? No. What was our militia during the American Revolution? They were in not very good shape. They were in bad order. They couldn't fight. They couldn't march. They many of them didn't wear uniforms when it came to the militia. Some of them didn't even have socks. So what would they need to be a better fighting force? they need to be put in good order. A well-regulated militia is a militia that's in good order.
Being necessary
to put in
for
good
the
order
security.
goes back to that second definition on both of the other things. A well-regulated militia is a militia that is well-equipped, well-trained, and so on and so forth. It's a militia that is in good order. So now we go back to the Commerce Clause. If the word regulate there then means to put in good order, not to control and restrict and everything else as they do today, then we have to ask ourselves a question. If the job of the federal government is to regulate commerce with foreign nations, among the several states, and with the Indian tribes, then what does that mean their job is? Well, let me rephrase that. What is their job when things are flowing nicely and everything's in good order? They don't have a job. Because if it's already in good order, you can't put it in good order.
It doesn't need to be in good order. Right.
So in other words, while the states are trading among themselves, and there's no dispute, there's no argument, things are flowing across state lines without any problem, then the job of the federal government is that they have no job. It's none of their business. Their job is to put it in good order. Now, if it gets in a bad order and you have states in dispute, now the federal government has to come in as a mediator to settle that dispute. And we know that to be one of their jobs because what does it say in the preamble? To ensure domestic tranquility. How do you ensure domestic tranquility? By mediating disputes between the states. But if there is no dispute, you don't have a job. What goes on inside the country is none of your business in when it comes to commerce, unless there's a problem.
Right.
To put it in good order, then federal government needs to get involved and mediate the dispute. Reason why I enjoy talking about this is because I want us to understand what they've done with our language and how they've made themselves supreme. Ron Partain earlier in the show was spending his time explaining to you one of the problems is they think they're supreme and we believe them. And we allow it. Well, federal government supreme. Someone's got to be in charge. Our Constitution is not a national government. It did not put the federal government in charge of everything. Everything the federal government does not supersede everything a state does. If it is a state issue, the only time federal government has anything to do with it is if there's a dispute.
All right. And then he just said, so they have to keep things in bad order so they can keep control. Now, I want you to tell your story about your friend who stood up at the meeting, at the Democratic meeting.
Yeah, Benito, and I can't think of Benito's last name now. Benny. Benito.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I don't remember his last name, but anyway, so he worked for the Democratic Party. He was a high-ranking guy, and he was the chief, guy who staffer working for a candidate who was running for Congress as a Democrat because the other Democrat has stepped down. Time for the new Democrat, and so he worked on the guy's campaign as the chief of staff. And during a very important Los Angeles County meeting among the Democratic leaders, they're talking about the different issues that are going on and the poverty and all the issues that they're working on. And Benito raises his hand and says, why don't we change our tactics a little bit? Let's solve these problems. They seem to keep going. We need to solve them for the people. And the room went silent. And finally, one of the gentlemen, high-ranking guy, says to him, well, if we were to solve the problem, what would we run on? In other words, what the Democrat Party does is they complain about the problems, but they perpetuate the problems on purpose so that they can maintain that power. Let me give you another example real quick, just to help you understand another one. And some of you guys will really enjoy this one. Ron, what is the jurisdiction of the United States Coast Guard under normal situations?
The jurisdiction of the United States Coast Guard would be 12 miles out, 12 miles out of beyond the international border.
Which is about 200 miles off the coast.
Well, no,
from what I understand, it's actually more than 12 miles. It's big, but anyway, but there's a limit to how far they're supposed to go off the coast, right?
Right. 12,
regardless of what that number is.
12. Yeah.
Plus, also they're supposed to patrol navigable waterways of the United States.
Correct.
So how is it that we keep seeing Coast Guard cutters in the Middle East detaining ships that are carrying drugs? Well, see, that limitation on how far the Coast Guard can be off the coast of America is not in play when we are in a state of emergency. So if the Coast Guard is capturing boats in the Middle East, what does that tell you? According to the United States, we are in a state of emergency. You know what? We've been in a state of emergency in one way or another my entire life.
That's right. We have been in a perpetual state of emergency.
Mm-hmm. Why? Getting back to what Nini said and back to what my friend Benito experienced. In order to have the power, the emergency, the problem, the difficulties, whatever it is, must be maintained in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
There are no solutions. They don't want solutions. Solutions are not in their game.
No, that's correct.
You must always be worried. You must always be fearful. There must always be a crisis. Why? Right. Because you never let a crisis go to waste.
That's right. Always.
Yeah, now I tell you folks, now for those of you who are new to this show, let me say this real quick before we go on. I want to warn you, because as you go through the Constitution with me, 3 things are going to happen. Number 1, I'm going to tick you off because it's worse than you thought. As bad as you thought it was, I'm going to find things to make you realize it's even worse, no matter how bad you think it is. Number 2, I'm quenching your thirst for knowledge with a fire hose. This is a lot of info that we go through when we go through the Constitution. It's okay if you didn't take all the notes. You got to go back and rewind to hear it again. You still got questions. That means you're something that the certain people in this world don't admit. You're human, and that's okay. Third, every once in a while, I'm going to talk about things, and you need to give it a chance, because you're going to have trouble wrapping your mind around it, because we've been taught such garbage. We believe a lot of wrong things, like the Commerce Clause, great example. So when I talk about putting things in good order, that's hard to wrap your mind around, because we've been taught our whole life, no, if it crosses state lines, then they have the authority. When I start talking about natural rights and the Bill of Rights and where it applies, like we did yesterday, you get people very upset because they assume I'm saying something I'm not saying. Give it a chance. Let me fully explain it. Wrap your mind around it before you start throwing nice little sweet words at me in the chat room.
Right. And always remember that no matter what, a lie does not become truth just because it's accepted by a majority.
Right. Very good.
Always.
That's exactly right. All right. So that said, and Florida Jack, you're exactly right. You'll learn more the second time around. When I do my Constitution classes live in these different cities, Southern California, and Ron knows exactly what I'm talking about because he used to attend these classes. A lot of these people go through it 2, 3, 4 times. I've got a lady named Lynette who is in one of my classes in Riverside County, and she's known me for years. She's heard me go through the Constitution a number of times. And a couple of Thursdays ago, she says, I got it. I finally got it. Okay. And now I get what you were saying there. It was hilarious. Because the light finally, because some of us it takes longer, some of us take shorter. I try to explain it the best I can, but sometimes because we're not being told this stuff. They've been lying to us since day one. People say, well, Doug, when did the Constitution first come under attack? And I say before the ink was dry.
That's correct.
In fact, during the convention, there were those like Alexander Hamilton attacking these ideas before they were even written down.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
And the more you get to know me, the less you're going to like Hamilton. And a few other characters I'm not going to get into right now, but one of them had a very tall hat, a very interesting
Hamilton and Lincoln. Hamilton and Lincoln. It's Lincoln is worshipped as one of the greatest presidents ever, and he was Okay, remember how when Trump was president and everybody was like, he's being a dictator, he's being a dictator. Okay, well, all of the things that they claim that Trump did, Abraham Lincoln actually did.
Right. Pretty much. And more.
And more.
Suspended habeas corpus, for example.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus. Abraham Lincoln sent federal troops in and shut down newspapers on deliberately. Anybody who was against hey Stephanie, anybody who was against the war that he was perpetuating, he would send federal troops in and shut down newspapers. He would incarcerate people without trial and hold them indefinitely without being able to see an attorney. Yeah.
Well, the way I like to explain it real quick, short, because we're running out of time, and this is not really the topic at hand, but I want to go over this real quick. The way to help people understand the war between the states is this. It was a nasty divorce that didn't get a chance to finish its process. Basically, the South, in many ways, was the abused wife. And they said, adios, I'm out of here, seceded, I'm gone. What did the federal government do? Like any good husband, got a hold of them, beat the crap out of them, using military in this case, locked him in the basement and said, you're going nowhere.
I like to say that it would be akin to you're a 19-year-old child living at your parents' home, and your parents lose their job and they need you because you have a good paying job. They need to raise your rent to pay the mortgage, and so instead of paying $1,000 a month, they want you to pay $2,500 a month, and you're like, hell no, I'm out of here, and so you move out. And then they come to your house, your new apartment, and they not only do they take you and bring you back into your apartment, into their house, they burn the apartment and everything that you own along with it and force you to pay $2,500 a month.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much a good way of putting it too. All right. So Wickard v. Filburn in 1941, 42, right around then, I think it was. You can look it up. Wickard
No,
v.
Lincoln
Filburn.
did not free the slaves.
No.
The 13th Amendment.
What Katie is talking about is
what
or
Tracy's
not Katie.
talking
I'm sorry.
about.
What the common thinking is that the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves. First of all, that's an executive order. It has no legal authority. First of all, second of all, even if you read it, it did nothing for the South. What it did is it proclaimed. Once read, it has no legal force. It's just proclaiming, just saying. I could say, hey, by the way, all the people next door, they're now free to move out if they want to. Well, whether I say it or not doesn't matter. It's what they do. So it's a proclamation that any slaves in the states occupied by the North were free. That's what it basically said. But the reason for it was to to get Europe out of the war, basically, and to make the war about slavery. Now,
it was a war
when it comes to freeing the slaves, Lincoln didn't free the slaves. And Congress participated in freeing the slaves by proposing the 13th Amendment, but it was also the ratification. It was a process. The 13th Amendment freed the slaves, not a man, not a group. 13th Amendment, which was proposed by Congress and ratified by the states, or at least the states that were a part of the Union at the time.
Right.
All right. So he did not free the slaves. And now I'm not as harsh on Lincoln in some ways because I do believe deep down he was a good man. He meant well. I think he was a Christian, but he was led astray. He believed things that should be led. He was taught by the John Marshallites. He was in it with certain banking systems and bankers. So I think he was a good man that really got fooled into. I see the face.
Respectfully
I think he began as a good man and he was led in a bad direction.
He laid traps. He laid traps for the South to fire the first shot so that he could
I understand that. And
was the things that he did to start the Civil War to enable.
Well, now I'm not saying he was good. That who the good man he was is still there at that point. He began as a good man, I believe. If you read his entire life,
yes,
he's a good man who got led astray.
I'm categorically
and he fell into the trap.
No, yeah, I think Lincoln is the
Your facial expressions, by the way, were hilarious as I was saying that, and
yeah.
you looked like you wanted to vomit.
I am not a fan of Lincoln at all.
I'm not a fan of Lincoln either. However,
And Lincoln,
understanding his entire
Hamilton,
life, I
FDR.
believe that was a process. I don't believe he just got into politics and man, let's just screw everybody. I just don't believe he was that guy early on.
Okay, he did what he did to save the Union. He didn't do what he had to do to save the Union. He did what he had to do to ensure that the money that was coming in from the South kept going, so that he could keep the. If you think that corporate welfare is bad today, it was just as bad back then. And they needed the South. They needed the money, the revenue that was coming from the South, from the
The
tariff
South
of
had the
abomination.
raw materials that the North didn't have. The North
right.
did all of the industry. Without the raw materials, the industry has nothing.
That's right.
They needed the South, but the South could work with other countries and create industry themselves.
That's right.
So,
And they were, and
that's
they were,
where the
and
South
this,
really was the better,
and the South had begun to industrialize,
which really finally fulfilled its journey in the 90s. And that's when the South really started voting differently, because it's amazing how your political thinking changes when you go into business for yourself and you realize how many hoops there are to jump through and how much red tape really does exist.
That's right.
So yeah, and that's a story for another time. I don't want to get into politics or parties per se, but yeah, it is interesting. Okay, now that we've had a little fun,
we've got about 6
Lincoln,
minutes
we'll get
left.
13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. We'll get deeper into this stuff. Okay, so guys, we're just whetting your appetite on that. All right, so regulate commerce to foreign nations among several states with the Indian tribes to establish an uniform rule of naturalization. This means that the rules for becoming a citizen are the same throughout the country. If you are going to hold up your hand, renounce your citizenship to another country, and become an American citizen, the rules, the regulations, how it's done is the same throughout the United States, or at least it's supposed to be, because the Constitution calls for Congress to establish that and make it the same throughout the United States. Now, that said, I want to touch on something that we touched on yesterday a little bit, and this comes up a lot when I get to this. Two things. One, I don't believe this, even though this is the clause already says does this, I don't believe this is the clause that gives the federal government authority over immigration. It's a different clause. This gives the federal government authority over naturalization. What happens after the immigration happens, becoming a citizen. Number two, dual citizens. So, well, Doug, what about dual citizenship? Where's that in the Constitution? It isn't. And most people don't realize this. The United States government does not recognize dual citizenship. Dual citizenship is something that is recognized elsewhere.
Well, then why do we have so many people who have a passport from some little bitty tiny sliver of sand in the Middle East?
Because that country recognizes dual citizenship, and they are entitled to have that because they're dual citizens of another country. But the United States, from the pure citizenship standpoint, only recognizes you as an American citizen. In order to be a citizen, if you naturalize, you have to renounce your citizenship from previous country.
Okay, well then
now I know they're not following.
Yeah, then they're not.
They're doing it all. I know it's shocking. The government's not acting constitutional. I know it's shocking you.
Yeah, and yeah. I'm
one other thing is
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I'm going to get in trouble if I keep on talking.
Yeah, hey, I got a meeting in 3 minutes, so I don't want you to go on another wild tangent here just yet. I got to get out of here at the top of the hour. One other thing, if anybody ever asks you, well, is there any mistakes in the Constitution? You think it's perfect? No, I don't think it's perfect. And the error is here, but it's a grammatical error, in my opinion. It says to establish an uniform. They put the word "and" before anything is started with a vowel. But in today's grammar, and I both thought in the grammar back then, that if the vowel made a consonant sound, it didn't get the word "and," it got the word "a." So if there's a mistake in the Constitution, that's the one. All right.
Talk about being nitpicky.
Hey, it's great for trivia. That's a great little tidbit for trivia.
All right. Well, since we're so short on time, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you and what you got going on, and And before you go there, I'm going to just say, guys, I will be for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning, when this is over, I'm going to be there's going to be about a 10 to 15-minute break. I'm going to reestablish the new another show, and then I'm going to finish with the Constitution by the Back Door Part 3.
All right. My name is Douglas V. Gibbs. I'm Mr. Constitution, for those of you who don't know. The way to find me is douglasvgibbs.com. You see it right there under my mug, right there on the screen right there. See it right there. douglasvgibbs.com. My website has been updated, renovated, and uplifted, and it's a little different. We're still working on certain parts of it. We have a lot of phases that we want to release in the future, which will make it a very educational website. It's all about educating you. Right now, all the videos I've done is there. The blog, my whole blog has been transferred over, and down the road, we're going to be adding more stuff. So please keep visiting. And when you go there, do me a favor. There on the main page, douglasvgibbs.com, below my mug and all that, there's I think it's in a blue or red strip, and it says join the newsletter. Type your email address in there. Join the newsletter. Even if you're on my email list already, we are going to be transferring everything over within the next 30 days. So sign up for the newsletter so that when we start putting stuff out, good information, I want you to get it. That all said, united we stand. Combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. It's been a pleasure being here.
All right, everybody. So we'll let Doug roll out, and I'm going to end the broadcast and look for the new show to be coming back here in about probably about 10 minutes, roughly. So
bye, everybody.
We'll see you guys shortly. Have a good night, everybody. Until 10 minutes. See you in a few.